It is the 17th day of September 2025. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Morning Cafe. My name is Ann Odida. Karibu sana.
And my name is Fred Ndimuli. Yesterday we began our 100 days countdown to Christmas. So today tuko day 99. 99 days to Christmas. Tutaendelea hivyo hivyo hata mkichoka until tufike huko. Jana I made a prediction. I actually prophesied, and I told you that we were going to get our third gold medal at the World Athletics Championships at 4:35 p.m. And I'm telling you, by 4:40, Faith Kipyegon had done it. Congratulations, Faith, winning the women's 1500 meters race and earning Kenya our third gold medal.
Cementing our position in top 2 after USA.
Wampe tu achane na wambie 1500 meters tumeitoa in your honor.
Iyo ni yako. All right, let's take a look at the local dailies. We start off with the Daily Nation. Free school funds dropped to 7-year low.
All right. The Star, Worcester, Ruto Raila parties get 1.2 billion shilling windfall.
Faith makes history.
Yes, at least Faith Kipyegon is on both front pages, Daily Nation and The Star.
And must RG Pukis.
Yes. A very different kind of headline on the Standard, and we'll explain that later. Taifa Leo anasema wabunge wapigania posho kotini.
All right. People Daily, why Gachagua can't run for presidency. That story has also been covered here. An analysis by the People Daily.
And Business Daily, how US rate cut will ease Kenya's SGR loan burden. And Faith Kipyegon once again on the front page of this paper. For State of the Nation, we'll be having legislators Joe Nyoto, who's a senator Murang'a County, and Sabina Chege, nominated MP, alongside Professor Fred Ogola, he's a commissioner in the People's Restorative Justice Commission, and Fwamba NC Fwamba, political analyst. Do stand by for that, coming your way at 6:30.
All right. Today we'll be hosting a team from Kenya Property Developers Association and Architectural Association of Kenya on matters real estate. Tukivuka border, we start off in Uganda. Daily Monitor, government scraps key ministry posts, and some top positions in government are set to be abolished or renamed in line with guidelines to reorganize ministries, departments and agencies, with the undersecretary given an expanded role to oversee, among others, finance, human resource, planning and procurement, while workers laid off are to be sent home by December 2025. Government scraps key ministry posts in Uganda. Other stories here, presidential aspirants raise concern over East Electoral Commission signature verification. That is former presidential candidate John Katumba, aka Katumba Oye, as he waits at Electoral Commission offices in Kampala yesterday. Mr. Katumba presented his papers ahead of nominations next week. Uganda will be heading to elections next year. Is it February? January 26th. Upcountry schools hire private teachers as strike bites hard. Is the postal system still relevant? And this question has been asked as well in Kenya. Posta ilienda wapi?
Bado watu wanaandika barua na wanaweka ile stamp.
Posta siku hizi zimekuwa posho mill. Horticulture boom. Exports hit $81 million after decade surge in Uganda. On the top strip, top NUP leaders vetted amid concern over bias. That's the Daily Monitor this morning.
We stay in Uganda. On the New Vision, government probes Dubai sex trade reports. And this was based on a BBC special report, investigative report, that many young girls in in Uganda are being lured to Dubai, basically for sex trafficking. Police have launched investigations into the alleged exploitation of Ugandan girls. Nasikia kuna jamaa moja kule Dubai ndo anafanya hiyo kazi. Anawaleta kule, anawavalisha manguo alafu anawauza kwa majamaa wenye mabwenyenye. The story, Museveni meets Chabazinga Oyo, na kuna picha pale. Of course, a second half reserved for the president. NRMCC moots plan to pay party leaders. That's another story. And the story behind Uganda's party symbols, sahi ndio watu wanaleta, unajua, wheelbarrow, taa, nyota, jogoo, vile kila kitu hata Uganda wako vile vile. Pale juu, Nsasirwe starts journey to marriage. Huyu ni nani Nsasirwe? I think he's one of the royal family or something like that. Matters love pale juu. On the New Vision.
All right, let's cross over to Tanzania. Now we start off with the Citizen. Role of industrial clusters in driving inclusive growth. And the government has said industrial clusters are at the center of Tanzania's industrialization strategy. These are designated zones where businesses co-locate to benefit from shared infrastructure and services, creating robust value chains and ecosystems. And under the national industry policy, the government plans to establish 50 industrial clusters by 2030, including 40 value addition clusters, strategic industry clusters, and research and innovation hubs. Matters development given prominence here on the front page of The Citizen. How heat projects has transformed higher education. Heat ni sio heat ya joto.
In higher education, something.
Yes, heat ya okay, heat ya HEET, education. Mwinyi Othman step-up campaign trails in Zanzibar. And CCM Zanzibar presidential candidate Hussein Mwinyi yesterday pledged to increase support for entrepreneurs groups. In Pemba, ACT Wazalendo's Othman Masood promised wide-ranging reforms in the fishing sector. Education experts push for broader literacy skills in the digital era. And on the top strip, smartphone upgrade dilemma, is yearly hype really worth it?
Yes, kila mwaka wana upgrade. Sasa imefika iPhone 17.
Launched a few weeks ago.
Mimi simu yangu bado ni ya 2019. Hata si 2019, 2010.
All right, that's The Citizen.
From The Citizen tuangazie gazeti la Mwananchi. Masuala ya siasa lazima yapewe kipaumbele, lakini kuna habari ya simanzi pale. Msiba juu ya msiba. Familia ya baba, wanawe 4 wafariki wakitoka msibani. Simanzi, vilio vya tawala ndugu, mjane wakiaga miili kanisani. Na walizikwa wote siku moja tu, wote kwa pamoja. Na kwingine kanasema sister 4 na dereva wafa kwa ajali. Tatanisha pale. Masuala ya siasa hapa juu, Daktari Mwinyi na Othman ni jino kwa jino, kampeni zikizidi kunoga kule Zanzibar. Na kwingineko, Lissu aibua jipya kuhusu mashahidi kesi ya uhaini. Yeye bado anang'ang'ana kule kotini. Mwenyekiti wa chama cha demokrasia na maendeleo Chadema Tundu Lissu amedai wengi wa mashahidi wa jamhuri wanaotarajiwa kutoa ushahidi katika kesi inayomkabili hawastahili kisheria. Pale juu, Samia arejea Makunduchi na historia kule Unguja. Mgombea rais wa tiketi ya Chama cha Mapinduzi Samia Suluhu Hassan leo anaanza kampeni zake kule Zanzibar. Na Yanga ndio wababe wa Kariakoo Derby mwaka 2025. Simba hawapo pale. Gazeti la Mwananchi.
All right. Samia is also campaigning in Zanzibar?
Yes, she campaigns kila mahali.
So Zanzibar pia wana vote for Tanzanian presidents?
Si anakampenia wale watu wa chama chake pia.
Yeah. Watu wa CCM. Okay. Makes sense. Let's take a look at hali ya anga sasa hivi. We start off in Kilifi. 24 degrees this morning. Feels like 26. It's a cloudy day in Kilifi today. Highs of 29 degrees. Precipitation here, 1.7 millimeters. That's the weather in Kilifi this morning. Tende Limuru.
Definitely chilly in Limuru. It's 11 degrees as we speak. Clear with periodic clouds leo. Anasema jua itakuwa mingi at highs of 23, which is very high for Limuru, and this will sustain for the rest of the week. 21, 22, the average there. And as far as precipitation, 0.5 millimeters, way lower than what you see in Kilifi.
Turkana this morning, it's 26 degrees, feels like 27. Clear skies with periodic clouds. Highs of 36 degrees. Precipitation in Turkana, hakuna kitu hapa hata kidogo. 0 millimeters Eldoret.
The Rift Valley, we head to Eldoret, 13 degrees Celsius. It is also clear skies with periodic clouds. A bit of rainfall expected later on. Highs of 23 degrees, which is comfortable weather. 3.0 millimeters of rainfall expected in Eldoret.
All right, tukivuka kule Nyanza, Homa Bay, 21 degrees, feels like 24 this morning. It's a partly cloudy day. Actually, it's a cloudy day. Highs of 27 degrees, precipitation in Homa Bay today, 1.8 millimeters. And
the heat in Homa Bay is just going to get higher as we progress through the week. 27 tomorrow, 28 Friday, 28 Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Next week in Agonga, 29. It's going to get even warmer in Homa Bay.
Finally, weather in Nairobi this morning.
Yes, 14 degrees in Nairobi. They also say it's clear skies with periodic clouds. Highs of 27 degrees, which I think is the warmest we've seen. Leo kuna joto proper, 0.4 millimeters of rainfall. Ata kesho, it won't be as hot as today. Today is 27, the highs. Tomorrow, 26. and I don't think we'll see 27 again. So today could be the warmest day in Nairobi in a very long time. Yes.
All right, it's 10 minutes past 6. Wednesday traffic in Akavipi. Yesterday wasn't that bad, yeah?
Yes, yesterday we saw relatively comfortable traffic for this part of the morning. Let's see if at all, yes, refreshed one kama imechange kidogo. I can see most major highways into the city are clear. Let's take a look at Thika Road because pale Pangani interchange, it's building up nicely. But further up Thika Road, came up in and let down, but it's looking good. It's looking green all the way from Ruiru past Githurai, past Kasarani, Garden City, KCA University, only getting that bottleneck at the Pangani interchange. Same to Kiambu Road. And I think most of the hurdles that were on Kiambu Road yesterday have since been cleared. So watu wanatumia Kiambu Road mko sawa leo. Jogoo Road pale Makadara kama kawaida, there's a long stretch of red and yellow pale just before you get to that St. Stephen's Jogoo Road roundabout. After that, it's green all the way into town, only getting a bit of traffic once you get to Haile Selassie Avenue around the Railways bus station. Outer Ring Road kama kawaida pale Fedha Natasia, nothing out of the ordinary. Mombasa Road all the way from the airport into town, it's green. This other side, green on Southern Bypass, green on Langata Road, green Magadi Way, green Ngong Road, and green as well on Wayaki Way into town. So traffic leo ni kama ya jana, very comfortable traffic. I don't know. Ni kama shule zimefunga ama nini?
Watu waendi kazi.
Watu waendi kazi.
Christmas is around the corner.
99 days to Christmas. Niko na sawa.
11 minutes past 6, that's the traffic situation. Let's have the quote of the day.
The past holds no power over your future. It's always possible to begin again, to take a new path, and to reinvent yourself as the person you wish to become.
All right, we start off with the Daily Nation. Free school funds dropped to 7-year low. Audit. PS Julius Bitok accuses some school heads of submitting incorrect information. President William Ruto said yesterday, ghost everywhere. Na watu wakacheka sana. Like right now we are reporting ghost on health, ghost on education, kila mahali, ghost. So we have to find a way to do away with the ghost.
Something interesting about this story is that they say this capitation has dropped to the lowest, that's 15,614. It's supposed to be 22,244. It is one of the promises that the president made, that juzi akiwa na walimu State House, ati ata correct hiyo maneno, lakini utacorrect aje na mambo inaenda chini zaidi.
Hai, wacha tuwasome. Cash crunch. The amount allocated per learner so far this year under the free-day secondary education program has dropped to 15,614 out of the expected 22,244 shillings. An analysis of the disbursements shows, and with schools scheduled to close at the end of the next month, this will be the lowest amount since the Uhuru administration.
Now, the bigger problem is not even how low the amount is going. The fact that most schools are yet to receive a huge chunk of this year's capitation money. Yeah. So hata mkisema ni kidogo, ama hata hiyo kidogo sifike shuleni tafadhali. That's the question, yeah.
All right, and that story on ghost workers and some cases of duplicate learner codes and suspiciously low enrollment numbers delayed payments. This story is on page 2. There will be a strike today by university lecturers in Anza leo after failed talks. Yes.
Wewe si unafunza university?
Koma, uliniona huko. Koma kabisa. Faith makes history with fourth 1500 meters gold medal, and star athlete on path to track immortality. Karibu niseme immorality. Immortality leads compatriot Dorcas Ewoy in a 1-2 finish for Kenya. So Faith Kipyegon came first, and then Ewoy, who made her debut, came second.
Nelly Chepchirchir alikosea tu kidogo akakuja fourth. Otherwise ingekuwa 1, 2, 3.
Kidogo.
Tungepata hizo zote tatu. Sijali.
All right, judge falls DPP in Oparanya graft case, and High Court terms decision to terminate 57 million shillings corruption case unconstitutional and an affront on powers of the EACC. On the top three, police recruitment saga, MPs give 2-day deadline. 2 government agencies have until Thursday to agree and set hiring date. And Ruto backs special economic zones to generate new jobs. He launched 2,000 acres Vipingo SEZ in Kilifi County yesterday. That is expected to create jobs, attract investments worth 390 billion shillings. On the back page of this newspaper, American grants long reign as world championship end. And that story on Faith Kipyegon, like she knew to ni Star athlete destroys 1,500 meters field for big step towards attaining athletics immortality. And now she's going to compete with, is it Beatrice Chebet? Yes.
All right, and now that means that Kenya is back to second place in the medal table behind the United States. The US has 6 gold, a total of 8 medals. We have 3 gold medals, 1 silver, 1 bronze, making it 5 against what the US has, which is 8. Tunapelekana now hapa kwa hapa. Before Faith won that race, Canada had frog jumped us.
No,
Meanwhile, Tanzania wamedrop. Wameenda number 7.
They were number 6 yesterday.
Sisi tuko sawa. Tuko sawa. All right. And as far as today's sessions are concerned, at 1 p.m., something to look forward to, 1:10 p.m. today, men's javelin throw qualification group, Julius Yego will be there. Another one that we could be looking forward to at 3:57 p.m., that's this afternoon, the women's 3,000 meters steeplechase final. Faith Cherotich and Doris Lemngole will be in that race. At 4:20 p.m., men's 1,500 meters final. Timothy Cheruiyot and Reynold Cheruiyot. So another opportunity for Kenya to bag more medals. Tuone kama tunaweza songa karibu na the table leaders.
All right. Songa mbele.
The Star, Worcester, Ruto Raila parties get 1.2 billion shilling windfall. And this is about political parties funding as we get into this politically charged time. Let's take a look at the story on pages 4 and 5. Nataka kuona hii pesa imetoka wapi mingi hivi ya UDA na ODM. So President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga are poised to exert immense financial influence over the country's political landscape following the millions allocated to their parties this financial year. ODM has been allocated 1.21 billion, both parties, by the Political Parties Fund for 2025-26 financial year. 1.2 billion. Hey, hiyo pesa watafanyia kazi gani? That story is on pages 4 and 5 of this paper. They call it a lopsided funding to cement dominance of UDA and ODM. But anyway, they're the biggest parliamentary parties that we have. I think ODM has more than 80 members and UDA over close to 130. Hata kama mmedefect, bado mnakauntiwa kwa hiyo line. Other stories, of course, they make mention of Faith making history with 4th world title. Away from that, auditor says how Busia workers conned county in loans scam. Ile story ya ule lawyer ambaye aliuawa, anasema Mbobu's murder of 15 quizzed as detectives camp in slain lawyer's office. And how new voter registration could reshape 2027 polls is a story on page 6 of The Star. You can grab yourself a copy of this paper. Fresh, independent, different, 60 shillings. Get yourself a copy.
The Standard unmasked Robert Purkis. It's a glimmer of hope. Agnes Wanjiru was raped and murdered in 2012. Her body dumped in a septic tank while her infant daughter was left to grow up without her. For years, the name of our alleged killer, British soldier, was buried under secrecy, denials, and suspected cover-ups. Now, with the suspect finally unmasked and an international arrest warrant issued, the crime that has haunted Kenya and Britain is back in the spotlight. Yet for Wanjiru's family, justice is still far from certain. 13 years later, according to the family lawyer, despite the findings of the inquest, the respondents have failed to notify the late Agnes Wanjiru's family of the status of the investigations and possible prosecution. The story is on page 4, given prominence on the front page of this newspaper, and the identity of the UK soldier who is alleged to have killed Wanjiru has been revealed. His name is Robert Purkis. After the murder, the soldier was flown out of the country as the family sought justice in the courts. According to the investigating officer following the story, he says he believes that the name Robert James Purkis will come up in court, and they hope that Wanjiru's family will finally get justice. Other stories on the inside pages of this newspaper: hiring of 10 6,000 officers in jeopardy due to National Police Service and NPSC stalemate. And a meeting between the two entities failed to chart the way forward. However, they agreed to do away with online applications and settle for physical exercise. Slain lawyer's friends speak of 96 hours in hell. He's missing 15 million shillings. A businessman says arrest has been the most traumatic experience in his life. Judge Wainaina explains how he met Mbobu just hours before assassination. Hawa ni wale walikuwa arrested just because they spent some time with Mbobu before he was killed that day. And family birth journalist from Mbobu's Requiem Mass. It happened yesterday, so ni kama we were not allowed to go in. Why Ruto's grand promises to teachers could be a pipe dream, and the timeline for implementation of many pledges is years that the government does not have, according to this newspaper. On insurance and housing, the teachers feel they are being promised what is already theirs. On the back page, Faith delivers for Kenya in Tokyo with 4th world title. A youngster Ewoi wins silver as Chipchirchir narrowly misses out on podium sport. Kenya has now won 3 gold medals in Tokyo. That's the Standard this morning.
From the Standard, we take a look at gazeti la Taifa Leo. Anasema wabunge wapigania posho kotini katika kile kinachoonekana kama hatua ya kuendelea kukwamilia hazina ya CDF. Wabunge wajitetea kotini. Bunge la kitaifa limejiunga rasmi katika kesi ambayo wakili maarufu jijini Nairobi Paul Mwangi amewasilisha kotini akitaka mwongozo wa mahakama kuu iwapo mswada wa kutaka kuingiza hazina 3 za fedha katika katiba unapaswa kuwasilishwa kwa wananchi kupitia kura ya maamuzi. Should the CDF and these other funds that parliamentarians wamejipatia be subjected to a referendum? That's a big question. Once court imeamua ni referendum, but then again, many Kenyans are benefiting from CDF, so hata wakiambiwa referendum, watasema tu sawa. Anyway, vidokezo zaidi kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili wanasema chaguzi za tikisa vyama, viongozi wa vyama wazozana na waniaji kuhusu nani awanie kiti katika chaguzi hizo. Kumbuka leo vyama tofauti vinafaa kuwasilisha wagombea wa viti tofauti katika ndani ya chama. The aspirants within the parties. If at all the parties conducting primaries, the IBC is supposed to know by now. So that ule ataibuka mshindi awanie na tikiti ya chama hicho katika uchaguzi mdogo wa Novemba 27. Nasir Ngugi wateuliwa mashujaa. Ni habari nyingine hapa, anasema Wakenya wapewa siku 14 kuwasilisha pingamizi kuhusiana na walioteuliwa kutuzwa. Ukurasa wa 5 hadithi hii iko pale, ni as we anticipate Mashujaa Day. Ni nani anafaa kutuzwa? So amesema yule gavana wa Mombasa, Nasir, na Ngugi, sijui kama ni Ngugi wa Thiong'o ama ni Ngugi mgani. Kura kule Malawi roho mkononi, wapiga kura washiriki uchaguzi wenye ushindani kati ya Rais Chakwera na mtangulizi wake.
Yani Malawi wako na elections.
So Malawi did the elections yesterday.
Oh wow.
Ukikuja north kidogo Tanzania wanangojea November. Oktoba mwisho. Alafu Uganda. Alafu lakini Kenya ndio tunazungumzia siasa zaidi. Yetu iko mbali, miaka 2 bado. Oparanya rudishwa kikaangoni, jaji asema DPP alikosea kuamua binafsi kufuta mashtaka dhidi ya waziri pale juu. Na Faith Kipyegon, fahari ya Kenya kule Tokyo apa kupaa. Superstar Faith Kipyegon azua dhahabu yake ya 5 jijini Tokyo. Gazeti la Taifa Leo.
People Daily, why Gachagua can't run for presidency, State House gamble. Article 75(3) of the Constitution bars anyone removed from office through impeachment from holding public office. This story has been covered on page 4.
But it is an analysis. Okay, fine. They present this as one hurdle, but they don't declare. Because if you look at the headline, it's like a declaration that he can't. Well, there are those who argue that he can. I don't know. Maybe it will be subjected to the Supreme Court to give an advisory. I don't know.
Amesema yeye tosha sasa. Ruto on the spot for politicizing public service by hosting teachers at State House. The story there on page 7. Why modern romance is a high-risk contact sport.
Hapo sasa.
Before tuanze show kuna watu
hata ule moms alisema
Jamani, please friend. Why are you like this?
Watu wanaogopa.
People and politics. People Daily.
Business Daily, how US rate cut will ease Kenya's SGR loan burden. Wanasema Chinese loan pegged on global benchmark lending rate, that's $1. Stock of debt impacted by rate standards at 982 billion. Dola ikipanda tu kidogo hivi, hii inapanda inakuwa trillion plus. Yeah. Faith Kipyegon, yani amepata space kwa Business Daily. That's how big that story is. Other stories, Portland Cement pushed to share buyback amid tycoon's bid. On the ticker, electricity production hits a record high. Siku hizi kuna ile rationing sana. And Stanchart issues profit warning on pensions payout. Elsewhere, banks lend 153 billion shillings to MSMEs, exceeding yearly target. Matters business. Once again, a reminder that on the panel today, starting at 6:30, we'll be having Joe Nyoto, Senator Muranga, Sabina Chege, who's a nominated MP, Professor Fred Ogola, who's a governance and economics expert, and political analyst Fwamba NC Fwamba. Do stand by for that, coming your way in a very short time.
And today, once again, we'll be hosting a team from Kenya Property Developers Association and Architectural Association of Kenya on real estate. Now the real estate sector is doing in the country. We still have time, Fred.
Yes, tuangazie Karakacha. Hatujamaliza bado.
Okay. Nawapeleka mbio.
Ni hapa.
Okay. Sawa. Let's take a look at the caricatures now before tuangalie traffics.
Wachoraji wanasema nini? We start off with a cartoon on the Star, and kuna jamaa anapita through chapter 6 of the Constitution. Nika kupita kwa ile tundu la sindano. Sema itakuwa rahisi kwa ngamia kupita tundu la sindano kwenda binguni. Kupita tundu la sindano kuliko tajiri kwenda binguni. Sasa hapa kuna jamaa, this gentleman, the former deputy president, has this huge load on his tied to his leg. That's impeachment. Will he be able, because of that impeachment, will he be able to go through this chapter 6 and the requirements thereof so that he can run for presidency? Yes, cartoon on the Star.
All right, this is the cartoon on the Standard, drawing a comparison between the world-based competition between Serengeti of Tanzania and Masai Mara of Kenya, as well as athletic stars, world best 1500 meters Kenya, and as well as...
You see what has happened there?
Yeah.
Remember the steeplechase race that we were traditionally has been Kenya's what's strongest performing race, where we used to get a podium finish 1, 2, 3. Yesterday we didn't get, no, at least in Tokyo we didn't get it. It went to Tanzania. So steeplechase imeenda upande hii. Meanwhile, 1500 meters hiyo ni yetu. Lakini wildebeest inatoka Serengeti inaenda wapi? Masai Mara. So I think that huyu jamaa amefikiria, cartoonist amefikiria sana.
The Standard.
Yes. People Daily. Kila mtu hapa amechora, wengi kwenye opposition, kila mtu anasema the ground is saying mimi tosha.
Different opposition parties, one voice.
So it's one voice, kila mtu anasema ametosha.
Yes.
The latest one, of course, ule jamaa wa Murima, na this one is causing the biggest debate. Can he or should he, following his impeachment, be allowed to vie for president? Yeah.
That is People Daily, and finally this is the Daily Nation, yeah?
Yes.
Rogue boda, lakini kuna watu wamebebwa hapa. That is Interior Cabinet Secretary. See no evil, hear no evil. See no evil.
So the CS, the DCI boss and the police chief,
Yeah.
the police IG, hawataki kuangalia mambo ya bodaboda. Meanwhile, bodabodas are causing havoc across the entire nation. Wanachoma magari mpaka wakachoma yao juzi, na hata hawakuwa wanajua. Wakachoma ya polisi. Yeah? But hawa wanaosimamia usalama wanasema watu wa bodaboda tu ni watu wazuri.
Haya basi, tuangalie traffic. 29 minutes past 6 inakaa vipi?
Oh yeah, so there's been some adjustments on a number of the roads. Pale Jogoo Road, the problem is still the same. Pale Makadara, after that it's green all the way. Paka City Stadium roundabout ndio ina slow down kidogo, but after that pale Mudhurwa it's okay until you get to Haile Selassie into town. Thika Road, sasa pale ndo kuna maneno. Ukishafika KCA University pale Utalii Drift Survey, the traffic starts from there all the way to the Pangani interchange, slows down completely, then stretches into that interchange into either Wangari Maathai Highway or Murang'a Road. So pale ndo kuna shida kubwa sana, people using Thika Road or Kiambu Road. I think that's the biggest problem because of the traffic at the Pangani interchange. Other roads, mi sioni shida. Mombasa Road, Langata Road, ABC Place ni kama tulivyoangalia pale asubuhi, nothing much has changed. So the traffic situation, I think the only adjustment is at the Pangani interchange.
All right, we are already seeing you pale social media. Advisor Pastor Emmanuel Barasa anasema watching from Kitengala. Weather leo aki. Yes, today is a very hot day. Scooby Asosha anasema Fred had faith on faith. I remember what he said yesterday and how sure he was. Congratulations, Team Kenya. Thank you so much, Scooby Asosh. And Frank Francis Okanga anasema good morning, Team Morning Cafe. Very bright morning with the duo and tuned in kama kawa. Asante sana. Do interact with us on our socials, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube. On X at TV47 Digital. My handle on X is at @Ann_Odida. The hashtag is Morning Cafe TV47.
My handle on X is at Fred Indimuli. See you after the break.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Aurora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water.
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
All right. Good morning once again. You're watching TV 47. This is the Morning Cafe with me, Fred Indimuli. Time for us to take a look at the big headlines, and we call this State of the Nation. The Standard today has decided to go with a totally different story about the murder of a Kenyan girl back in 2012. That's 13 years ago, Agnes Wanjiru, who was raped and murdered and her body dumped in a septic tank. And she left an infant growing without her mother. This murder was linked to a British soldier in Kenya. And finally, 12 years later, the identity of this person behind the crime has finally been revealed. And that is what the Standard has decided to go with. Unmasked RJ Purkis. And they say that finally, an international arrest warrant has been issued against this person who has been identified on the front page of the Standard, and it's the only story that the Standard has chosen to go with today on the front page. On the Daily Nation, free school funds drop to 7-year low matters education, and we'll be looking at this in connection to what we witnessed at State House Nairobi on Saturday, or on Friday, I think, at the end of last week when the president hosted a number of teachers, and he gave them promises, even on this issue. War chest. I'm looking at the Star now. War chest, Ruto Raila parties get 1.2 billion shillings windfall, and how this money should be or will be able to enable these parties to carry out their political activities. Matters business, how US rate cut will ease Kenya's SGR loan burden. But one thing that dominates most of the front pages today, I think it's only the Standard that didn't have space for this and put it as a main story on the back page, is Faith Kipyegon. Kenyan athletes who won the 1500 meters race at the World Athletics Championships, which are going on in Tokyo, Japan. And she brought Kenya's medal haul to 3 gold medals, 2 silver, and 1 bronze medal. Now we are second only to the US in this tournament. This morning we have the privilege to have in studio with us Professor Fred Ogola, who's an economics and governance expert. He's also a commissioner in the People's Restorative Justice Commission. Professor Ogola, karibu sana.
Asante sana, Fred.
Also with us this morning is political analyst Fwamba NC Fwamba. It's a pleasure to have you in studio today.
Good morning, viewers.
We do expect that other panelists will be joining us, but we can start with the two. And we start off with matters education. And I'm looking at 2 different stories. The main one on the front page of the Daily Nation on free school funds dropping to 7-year low. That the amount allocated per learner so far this year under the free day secondary education program has dropped to 15,614 shillings out of the expected 22,244 shillings. This is an analysis of the disbursement that's showing this. Schools scheduled to close at the end of next month. And this, according to this paper, is the lowest amount released since the Uhuru administration. And I'm looking at that story and comparing it to a story on page 5 of the Standard, which talks about why Ruto's grand promises to teachers could be a pipe dream. One of the promises made to teachers when they went to State House was that he had a plan to increase school capitation to the recommended levels of 2,238 per primary pupil and 22,244 for secondary students. He promised that the gap would be bridged in 2 phases, half in the 2025-2026 financial year, and the remainder in 2026-2027. Question is, how sustainable is education in the meantime? This promise by the president is something that he made to teachers. We've not seen a commitment. Even the kind of figures we are seeing on the front page of the Daily Nation, we are yet to see head teachers confirming that they have actually received all the capitation for the first 2 terms of this year. Should we take the promises by the president seriously? He made a lot more promises to teachers that cannot be backed by law, including 20% from all the affordable housing.
Yeah, Fred, if you ask, is education sustainable in Kenya? What else should be sustainable if not education? Who are we if you're not educated? Do you know that as soon as you are born, you begin to learn? Do you know, Fred, if you are born and you don't learn to cry, you cannot be a baby. Go to the nurses' hospital. They even beat up the baby. They do everything so that they make that cry that welcome to the world. You have to learn to breathe because you are not breathing through your nose in your mother's womb. Mm-hmm. So learning is so essential. It's not even that is supposed to be taken as a privilege. It is something basic. It is something that is actually a must for everybody. But what is happening in the country, Fred? Sometimes when we look at them like just something that is passing, we don't get a point. William Ruto says that he's the most educated president, and he has education in higher learning up to university PhD. There is somebody here we need to appreciate today, and that is former President Daniel Arap Moi. He wasn't educated in any university. If you have any evidence, please bring it. But look at what he did in the education sector. Look at how many universities he opened. I remember under Kenyatta, there was only Makerere University. In fact, UON was under Makerere University. How they did this transition and brought UON Air, and now we are having over 73 universities in Kenya and counting. That is revolutionary. Ruto claims to have been given the best education. He has a PhD. He said he is the most educated president in the history. He said he's the youngest. He said he's the brightest. Actually, he said he's better than everybody else combined, right? But we can't see these things in reality. How much money are you putting in capitation, in education, if you believe that education has taken you to State House? How many children might not go to State House if education took you there, if you don't care about education? I'm an academic, and I usually tell people that education is like air that must be breathed. So where are we taking money? And where should we take money? Where are the priorities? And when you go back now to the promises that the president was making in State House, is there anybody who is still taking these promises from him? And what basis are you using to take this? Fred, as a young boy, growing up in Siaya, I used to believe that visit to State House should be a life-changing experience. You can't go to State House, be addressed by the president in person. Me, I've never been with him in person, me. But you see somebody being addressed with the president in person, then they go back home and they sleep without food. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? State House visit should be a life-changing experience. And as an economist, there's a way we look at things. That's why I see it as life-changing. But the botanist doesn't see it this way. I believe that State House should not be, everybody should go to State House, get false promises, and you cannot get false promises inside State House, because this is actually the epitome of power in Kenya. It should be where all the truth should be said. If you can't say the truth in State House, where else can't you?
But even some of this truth has to be backed by legal processes, including the budget-making process. If at all, up till now, this government, and even through its budget-making process, has not been able to allocate the 22,000 shillings because of probably the financial strain. Where does the president get the backing or even the confidence to actually promise that in the next budget process, which is not wholly upon him, it has still to go to parliament, that more will be allocated, and it gives 2 budget cycles, the next one and the one after that? Should we really take the president seriously in some of these pronouncements that he makes?
First of all, let us ask ourselves, where do we get our money from? The primary source of our money to finance the government programs, including education, is from the taxes. We have seen the kind of issues we have had around the tax situation, and on that basis, I think there were a lot of budget cuts in the current financial year. That's looking at it from an objective point of view. But again, I saw the president saying that there is this transition of trying to harmonize the academic year and the financial year. That's what they are trying to put together. And I expect that going forward, I think we'll be able to move in a more organized manner. Then again, you know, in Kenya, there are those people who believe in transparency, and then there are those ones who believe in unfair enrichment. And we have seen that there are some schools that are ghost. There are some people who have given false documentation, and that needs to be scrutinized so that those ones who deserve to do not miss at the expense of those ones who are trying to play games.
Allow me to welcome Senator Joe Nyoto. Joe Nyoto is a senator, Murang'a County, into this conversation. You also happen to be an educationist, and we're talking about the front page of the Daily Nation. Free school funds dropped to 7-year low. Against a capitation promise of 22,200 per learner, this has dropped to 15,614, which is the lowest in 7 years. And we're just looking at that and look at the promises made at State House to teachers last week when teachers visited State House. And the president made a promise on this capitation that it was going to be upped back to the 22,000 level. But the question is, and this is a question I posed to Bwana Fwamba, that this has to be subjected to the budgetary process, and even the president seems to understand that, and he promises that this will be looked at in the next budget cycle and the one after that. But if at all the president has not been able to effect this in the past 2 budgets, how sure are we that this promise will stand? And don't you think that the president is actually treating education in a rather casual manner, Senator?
Thank you, Fred, and good morning to you and all the viewers. This matter of capitation for schools is something that is, actually it's lamentable, Fred, because considering what we call the time value of money, we should have actually enhanced this capitation from the initial 22,000 to about now 35,000, because of course everybody knows that a shilling yesterday was stronger than a shilling today. And so it's something that I think only President Ruto can understand. How, as time goes by, or as we progress, instead of enhancing this particular allocation, that you are reducing it. And not only that, even these 15,000 that they are talking about now, I can assure you, will not be disbursed to schools in full. That is what has been happening. And so, like you have rightly said, President Ruto has, and his administration, has actually, you know, brought down education completely. And you wonder exactly when he says that he is the best president ever, the most learned in quotes, most educated, but the one destroying education. And this is deliberate. And you have observed something that is also very sad, that the president could afford to, on Saturday last week, you know, host about 10,000 teachers of Kenya, pay them 10,000 Kenya shillings each. That's about 100 million. And that is net of logistics of transferring these teachers there. I mean, those that organized them to go there and all these. So we are talking about an administration that cares about political survival and not performance. An administration that actually does not care about anyone else. Whatever matters is political survival, is re-election. So schools are going down. Schools are highly indebted, and that is something that has been widely reported. You know, these promises that this will be enhanced from where? If you have reduced it from where Uhuru left it. Mm-hmm. I mean, education and Ruto, I think you cannot...
But you saw teachers celebrating in the State House. These are educationists, and you've been a teacher yourself.
Yes.
And you wonder, are they seeing this? Are they seeing what everyone else is seeing? Some of the promises the president made are not really, do not really enjoy legal backing. One of them is this, that the capitation will go back to 2,000 shillings, which is a budget, it's still subject to the budget making process in the houses of legislation. The other one was a promise of allocation of 20% of all the houses under the Affordable Housing Project, and which is still subject to the Affordable Housing Act.
You see, Fred, that is what I'm calling a sad situation, because we have a president in office who can promise anything without any regard whatsoever to the processes that lead to a particular, to implementation of a particular decision. And you are putting it very well, that if the president is going to promise any funds, any monies that will go to teachers or any other person, or any other person or group, that there is a budgetary process that will be followed before such monies are allocated to what the president has promised. But this president will promise anything because for him, he thinks that Kenyans will not remember what he said yesterday when today comes. So for him, he's a very casual president, a president who will just promise anything without any regard to processes, to procedure, because for him, I mean, lying for him is a way of life.
I'm more concerned about the reaction by teachers, that they actually took these promises and celebrated at State House, yes, with the knowledge that some of these pronouncements were purely populist and would be subjected to legal processes as well.
Our biggest problem in this country is mixing politics with the policy issues. For example, whatever is being projected by Mheshimiwa is all about the subjectivity about the president's pronouncements. But in reality, for you to initiate something, that promise is the beginning of working towards achieving that goal.
But
so if you do not pronounce it,
and again, the president himself playing politics and some of the making populist pronouncements about it.
I will not say it's populist, but he does not have to go and just make declarations that don't make sense. For him to make those declarations, it's about how he has planned on how it's going to be executed. And the legislature is part of the budget-making process. So the legislators are best placed to also explain to us at what point they gave support to the education sector and how much money they allocated. Some of these MPs were the ones who were supporting people on the budget cuts and reduced taxation. The reduction in taxation obviously translates to budget cuts in terms of allocations to different votes in the government. Mm-hmm. Now, there's this issue of the president hosting teachers at State House. He's not the first president to host teachers at State House. Kenyatta did, Moi did, Kibaki did, and even Uhuru did. So many people have gone to State House to discuss various stakeholder issues. And since it was a matter relating to education, it was so encouraging that the president brought teachers on board. And unlike previous circumstances where people selected certain categories of teachers, at this time it was as representative as possible, so that even those people who have never had an opportunity to go to State House also had that interaction with the president. Remember, these are hustlers people, hustlers person. He's the one who came up with the hustler agenda so that all people can feel their belonging.
Okay,
so many people have never had an opportunity to be at State House.
Do you understand the kind of reaction by teachers at State House? With this knowledge that some of these promises will have to be subjected to other processes beyond the presidency.
So, Fred, I'm very sorry for my brother. Actually, I'm very surprised to listen to him because he should have told Kenya better. But the problem we have is that people give up their right to think. And the first important right is right to life. The second most important right is to think, and just to think independently. In fact, as these panelists of people who are taken to highly by society, let me say that teachers celebrating, but let's understand William Ruto. Let's not talk more about teachers, because he's the president, and this is their leader. If he calls them and he pays them their salaries, what do you do? But what is the leadership we are offering? William Ruto is reducing the moral standards of this country so that everybody can fall for very low. That's what you have to understand. By reducing professionals to beggars. He called teachers to pick a handout of 10,000 shillings, which looks like bribe. Then teachers go back to school to teach their children about corruption. After you go to State House and pick these bribes, can you go and tell your students in primary school, in secondary school, to have standards? Because for me, that's what's happening. Who will be called next? Doctors. So if a doctor goes and picks a handout in State House, can you teach with the medical ethics required? He will call professors. Once he calls them, and then they celebrate like some people who have lost their brains, isn't it? Will they be able to be a professor in a class who teaches business ethics, corporate governance, economics, in a way that should be? Because why should we blow all this money? So Ruto is lowering the moral standards of this country so that everybody else is better, because he's having poverty-driven economic policy, the so-called hustler thing. Fred, I'm on record. In 2021, I said that we cannot build a hustler nation. Aspirations, every child, every mother gives birth, looking at her baby coming out, seeing a pilot, seeing a doctor, seeing whatever it is, not seeing a hustler. And we cannot be a nation that gives up and says we are a hustler nation. So according to me, these are poverty-driven. And I want to ask Kenyans, please, Kenyans, listen to me. Raise the bar high enough so that we cannot elect anybody who can lower the bar this low. Because I can tell you, I use bar soap. Bar soap means it arrests the bar. Any other soap must beat bar soap. So we must raise the bar, because we need a soap to wash this linen that is now getting dirty. Fred, my second point, which is actually very important, is the fact is that government, you ask a very important question, government speaks through budgets, isn't it? So that's why people read the budget, and that's why budget day is important. If someone promises you what is not in the budget, don't even look forward to it, because it's very clear it's not coming through. Right. If the government promises you they are going to pay for your wedding expenses and it's in the budget, Fred, they will pay. The second thing I want to say is that why do you promise somebody what is their constitutional right? And that is why you are elected as president, and that is why you collect taxes from Kenyans to give them. When you promise, we have to get this, when you promise somebody something, what Kenyans need to know is that that's why we give you taxes to do with this. You're not giving us as William Ruto, because William Ruto has no private funds to do these things. It is taxpayers' money, and they should remain so. Now, the worst tragedy about Parliament, State House, Fred, is this way. I've had my brother, John Yutus, Senator Muranga, I respect him a lot. He talks about the issue of handout. The 10,000 that translate to 100 million is not the issue. Because I've done research, I've taught many people, even some of those State House guys are my students. I can mention their names, but there's no point. I know breakfast for the teachers was being supplied by a supplier at 5,000 shillings per person. And I know lunch was 10,000 shillings per person. I have the invoice footages, you get me? Now that translates to 15,000 plus 10,000, that is 25,000 per person. Excluding transport, the day was spent 250 million shillings in one day. And that can be called within hours. Is this the way we should spend our money?
Right.
And look here, as teachers are happy that they are making money from getting 10,000, the biggest beneficiary are the suppliers of these services in State House, including the tents and the rest. Right. So these people are not just that they're calling teachers like my brother Bamba is saying here. It is that somebody has to make money in these State House projects handout, and that person is a supplier, and that is the cronies in the government system. And for me, that is the biggest tragedy.
Yes, indeed. Free school funds dropped to 7-year low, and this is a big discussion on the front page of the Daily Nation. And it comes just 2-3 days after the president made a promise to ensure that this capitation goes up back to the 22,000 required. But the questions we're asking is, are these promises that the president is making so casually backed by any legal framework? Or should he and all of us, including the teachers who are celebrating, understand that all this will be subjected to a budget-making process? These are some of the discussions. And as we, just before we go on a break, still on matters education, university staff are vowed to down their tools starting today. Learning and teaching in public universities is expected to paralyze beginning today after lecturers vowed to down their tools. And this has to do with their collective bargaining agreement. They're demanding for arrears in their salaries. Matters education dominating the headlines this morning. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we take a look at the presidential race for 2027. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Right, welcome back. You're still watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Freddy Ndimuli. We continue looking at the headlines. And just before the break, we were discussing matters education. Free school funds dropped to 7-year low. That's the big headline on the front page of the Daily Nation. 15,000 shillings is the amount being disbursed to schools, if at all it will get disbursed, against an expected 22,000 shilling per child undergoing free education. And we were juxtaposing this with a story on page 5 of The Standard, where President William Ruto, when he hosted teachers at the end of last week at State House, he made a promise to increase school capitation to the recommended levels of 2,200 per primary pupil and 22,000 shillings per secondary student. But he promised that the gap would be bridged in 2 phases, half in the 2025-2026 financial year and the remainder in the 2026-2027 financial year, which is yet to be budgeted for. Allow me to welcome to the panel Sabina Chege, nominated MP, who's also very passionate on matters education. Madam Chege, before we conclude on this one, I think it is only fair I give you an opportunity to talk about the same. Matters capitation and matters allocation to schools are subject to parliamentary processes and budget-making process. We argue that the president appears to be making very casual statements and making promises that probably he is not even able to keep without the support of the National Assembly. That he can make a promise to increase the capitation, if at all he has been unable to increase it till now, because the allocation was made through Parliament. How sure is he that in the next financial year this will happen? That's the kind of promise he made to teachers. Is it feasible? Or should we leave with the understanding that you can only afford 15,000 per child?
Well, good morning and thank you for the opportunity. First and foremost, I want to say, yes, there were promises that were made, but before the president makes promises, he has a team of advisors that sit with him. And before we see the state visits where we are finding some farmers coming in, like the KTDA directors, the teachers coming in, or various groups coming into State House, the president puts time to sit with, if it's the members of Education Committee, to sit with the minister, to sit with the people within the sector before he makes these pronouncements. So at the end of the day, what we see the president himself talking just about him and what he wants to tell the people, but what he has also consulted about. And I will say, for example, for instance, when he met with the KTDA directors and about their money that had been held at some bank for some time, the Committee of Agriculture was also invited, both the Senate and the National Assembly. So if the president make any pronouncement, then the onus is on the members of parliament, if it's on their allocation. The people's representative in parliament are the members of parliament and also the senators. So that means then there must be a follow-up after the president has made this pronouncement and after they have consulted, then the follow-up is within parliament.
The question is, members of parliament passed a budget for the 2025-2026
yes.
Financial year, where they made allocations to schools, including for capitation. The amount that they allocated to schools for capitation was much lower than the 22,000.
Yes.
Yet the president is still promising that within the same financial year, that will be bridged. On what legal backing does he do that?
I think that's why we have supplementary budgets, because after we do the main budget, there's normally a supplementary budget, though it's capped on some percentage. And so what we should be looking at, and I think I'm one of the people who have been saying we have a lot of money in education, not necessarily the capitation. We have money in CDF that goes to bursaries. We have something called presidential bursary. We have also some other money that goes to the governors. They're also giving bursaries. I think what we need to do now is remove politics from education and make sure that we are able to facilitate. That we don't need then an MP to go and give bursary to a student, or else we would have put this money in one basket and would have been able to finance education.
You've previously chaired the Committee on Education.
Yes.
Can we say confidently that you can afford the 22,000 shillings capitation per child? Can we do that?
Where there's a will, there's a way. Though we work on what we are able to raise, and I think what we have done within education sectors, we have also increased the number of teachers. Remember, this is also money that is also in the education. We have also increased the money that we're giving for help. And so when we look at everything else and how we are doing the allocation in the education sector, it is better to have a teacher in class instead of having capitation and then we don't have enough teachers. And I think one of the things I would say this government that has done is to increase the number of teachers who have been employed. And I think we are almost heading to 100,000 teachers who are going to be employed by towards the end of this year. So we have allocated also money to TVETs, and I think we have expanded the amount of money that we have allocated to education to various sectors in education. So what I would say, I am a Kenyan. I would want things to work. Instead of just looking at the cup half empty, I would look at it at half full and see what is my contribution. If the president then has made that decision, if then I go back to parliament, how are we able to make sure that this happens?
Why should we take this as anything more than just politics, that the president is simply trying to play populist and make populist statements to impress the teachers? We saw the celebrations in State House.
I think I wouldn't take it that way because as I've said before, he makes the pronouncement, he consults. And he has sat with his committee of education, he has sat with and I think his team has professors, have educationists.
Should presidential advisors, Senator, should they be the ones deciding for Parliament? The budget-making process is up to Parliament. Whatever comes from government is simply proposals. How would the president be so confident, because he's been advised by his advisors, that this will pass?
And I've said consultation with also the Committee on Education. So it's not just about the advisors. Don't zero out on the presidential advisors. Right. There are many people who are involved within this sector of education, not just necessarily the advisors. And also, even with the 22,000 that has been given before, the question is, when does the money get to schools? I think that's what we should be talking about.
Thank you, Fred. And I also have the advantage of having chaired the Committee on Education in the Senate for at least 2 years. And I want to disagree with my sister Sabina that there is consultation of the Education Committee. I may not know, maybe the President consults the Education Committee in the National Assembly, but for in my stint.
You've never been consulted by the President?
I was not consulted any time a decision was going to be made, but then I'm speaking about the Senate because I have never sat in the National Assembly. I don't believe the president, before he makes these declarations, that he consults. Because if that would be true, then we would see whatever he promises being delivered. Because we are talking about a president who will give promises without any care in the world whether the promises will be met. And you see, for this matter of capitation, Fred, and it's hard to depart from this matter, because, first of all, and I say this, we should not be talking about restoring capitation to 22,000 Kenya shillings because of the time value of money. We should be talking about enhancing it from 22,000 upwards, and I had suggested 35,000 per student. Because, so it should be enhanced. Number two, it should be disbursed. Because even the 16,000 Kenya shillings that had been allocated, I think, in the last financial year was not disbursed to schools in full. And that is a fact. So when then we want our viewers to believe that the president consults before he makes these declarations, while we know that he has made so many declarations without having them implemented, then we doubt that he actually seeks advice. And the other question that has been there about this president is whether actually he listens to any advice from anybody, because he is famous for advising his advisors on how to advise him. Because if, for example, he was going to be to have consulted, then I believe the first thing that those that he consulted would have told him is to disburse the little that has been allocated, which has not been done, and to enhance the same. And then, you know, you cannot escape from the matter of politics. And I heard my brother to the right say that we politicize everything. I mean, it is true that teachers went to State House, 10,000 in number. It is also true that each of them was paid 10,000 Kenya shillings. Now I hear from Prof here that there were caterers who were paid some amounts of money. I was not aware about that. There was also transport, which I had indicated. Hundreds of millions were spent on one day. The question is, are our priorities right? Why would we gobble about 100 million shillings in one day to have teachers, sing praises for you? And I also heard my brother say something that made me very sad. that, you know, it's also good to give people an opportunity. Some of them have never been to State House. I mean, State House, I mean, it's not actually important for teachers to visit State House. What would be more important is for teachers to see their welfare taken care of without necessarily visiting State House. For teachers to see, capitation go to schools. And my sister here says that it is better, that this government has employed many teachers. Yes, it is true, although most of them are interns. That it is better to have a teacher in class than capitation. These teachers, when they are engaged and they are taken to schools, if the students will not be able to afford to be in school, whom are they going to teach?
All right.
So I think we have to think about our priorities and, prioritize our issues on merit.
All right.
Not just something that is...
Before I give you an opportunity, Prof, let's give a final word on this education matter, because we need to move to politics now.
I want people to separate politics from policy issues. And I want to identify with what Mheshimiwa Sabina said about consultations. That you see, the president gives a pronouncement. Then there are people who are tasked by their own responsibilities, whether it's advisors to the president or those people who work at the treasury. To work in harmony with those ones in the Ministry of Education, technocrats, to ensure that whatever the president has proposed is implemented.
So we should not take his word as final.
It's a suggestion. It's the beginning point of the process, because there are other people who are given responsibilities of ensuring that it is implemented. And it's not a purely parliamentary process. The budgetary process is not a one-off thing. It is something that is progressive, and it involves different stakeholders. In this context, the Minister of Education technocrats and the technocrats at the Treasury.
Okay. Yes. Prof, final one on this.
Yeah, I want to remind my brother that if you understand how government should work, the government does not work like a rabbit or like a rat. A government is like a rhino. A rhino doesn't get excited very fast. If you go to Lake Nakuru Park and you throw a stone, you can throw 3 times before the rhino even looks at you. But when the rhino turns, you can feel what will happen in the forest. What I'm trying to say is that the president, there's a structure that works. I want to tell you, Mr. President, if you go to one of the President Kibaki's files, I wrote a structure on how this should work, and Kibaki used it. EMDA, 1, executive order. You just issue executive order, then shut up. Then that's why teachers don't have to go to parliament, don't have to go to State House. So that now the minister makes the policy to do it. And then State Department, headed by the PS, come with the execution framework, resource allocation, and everything. Then there's an agency in the education working. Let me tell you, Mr. President, that every PS Fred has around 500 staff under them, 500. If we have around 50 PSs in Kenya, you can imagine what I'm talking about. Why don't this infrastructure, like the Rhino infrastructure, work for you instead of you working for them? The president has employed dogs, but he's backing himself instead of allowing the dog to bark for him.
All right.
And that's why he's getting into trouble. He's not gaining from the mechanism of government and making these things work to the best of my ability. And I just want to say that the teachers who went there, whether they celebrated or not, and I want to be very much in disagreement with Mheshimiwa Sabina Chege, when she is now telling us that the president listens and the rest, yet we've had statements she's made before about the very president who never listens, isn't it? We also know very well that the president, as William Ruto, he has a way of ruling, which is different from everybody else. Moi used to openly make roadside declarations, but they were working. Here, he makes these declarations, but actually they don't have to work. And I want to state clearly to all Kenyans that let us not continue looking and hoping of what the president is saying, because we know very well that he just wants to continue saying what he's saying. And if you look at how the funding of education should be happening in the country, there's already a framework. And when you want to bring in anything, experts who give advice should also look at the alignment between these new pronouncements and the existing framework. And as we sit, even promised teachers will buy them cars if he gets elected. And when he said, if you elect me, I'll buy you cars, then now they're telling us, let us separate policy from politics. How do we do that?
What do you need to say? We're out of time on this.
Unfortunately, whatever is happening right now is political competition. Most of the statements that are being made by the president's critics are supposed to paint the situation to look as bad as possible, because we are moving towards a political direction, and people are so much trying to position themselves towards 2027. Right. And for that reason, they want to paint everything that the president does so negatively.
All right. Sabine Chege, I know you've been mentioned once or twice. Do you feel like you need to respond to anything, or you move to something else?
What I will just want to say, one is just to tell the Senator John Yutu that he can consult his colleagues that they were involved, they were consulted. We had senators, actually 3 or 4 of them from Agricultural Committee last week in the State House. So if he was not participating, because once you're elected, you can choose either to go participate in consultation, you can decide to ignore and become also a politician and go rubbish the same government that you rode on when you are being elected. It's a choice, and I would say this is something I have seen. Consultations are there. Consultation, most of the times, does not mean that might be you agree totally on everything that you consult about.
Right.
At least consultations have been there, and there are also a team of experts that come in before the president speaks. There is a lot of consultation happening, and that is a fact.
Right.
Yeah.
As far as matters of education are concerned, free school funds dropped to 7-year low. 15,000 is the amount that is now expected to be disbursed to schools per learner in the secondary school, against an expectation of 22,244. And I'm told, yes, there quite some feedback online on this issue. Let me just see if we can sample some of that very fast before we move to the politics. And Rono Franklin RK says, Professor, answer me this. 1, is capitation money under any circumstance going through the State House before it goes to schools? 2, the Parliament budgets approve and allocate funds to the ministries. Where does the President come in and decide that the capitation be reduced? Number 3, Mr. Professor, as you call yourself, do you know Parliament has all the reasons concerning the capitation? All these are directed to you, Prof. And I think that's what we have. Abel Osoro says, government is overworking, indeed, yani, ironically. That's Abel Osoro. Anyway, let's move on to other issues, and matters politics is huge. If you look at least 2 cartoons, they talk about the presidential race. The cartoon on the Star talks about chapter 6, and there's someone who's trying to go through a very small hole with a big load on his leg on impeachment. I guess as a former deputy president, will he be able to vie for president while he has that impeachment tag on him? The cartoon on the People Daily has all these leaders under the United Opposition, each one of them saying the ground is saying mimi ndio tosha. Different opposition parties, one voice, all of them saying each one of them is a one. But this story is captured aptly on the front page of the People Daily, where they say, and this is an express statement, that why Gachagua can't run for presidency. They quote Article 75(3) of the Constitution, barring anyone removed from office through impeachment from holding public office. Senator Nyoto, this is the biggest debate since the former deputy president announced his intention to vie for presidency. And yes, definitely, debate is out there that once someone has been impeached, and we've seen that history with Governor Sonko, Governor Waititu, that once you've been impeached, you are not allowed to vie for any political office for a certain period of time. Do you agree that there are some serious legal questions to be asked and answered on this matter?
Thank you, Fred. I think the matter of impeachment of the second deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, is a matter that happened in Kenya. This is something that happened in Kenya. And Kenya is under the jurisdiction of our constitution. And in the constitution, any decision that is made, whether in parliament or in court, is subject, or parties are free to appeal against any decision. If you are removed, for example, from a particular position and procedurally, then you can go to court and seek legal redress. So the matter of impeachment of the deputy president or of the governors that have been impeached in the past, for that matter, is subject to, I would call it the court process. So until and unless you have exhausted all the appellate avenues that are there under our constitution, then you cannot be prevented, in my view, from vying for any particular office. Why? Because if, for example, you blocked somebody from vying for a particular seat simply because they were impeached, and then a court of law rules that you had been impeached or removed from office and procedurally, then an injustice will have been visited on you, or will have been served on you or to you. And so until and unless the Supreme Court rules that His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua was removed procedurally and legally, he is actually qualified.
Should the converse also be true, that if at all he gets elected president and then the court rules after that, that his impeachment actually stands, that then therefore he should be removed from that office?
That would be a matter of constitutional interpretation. I think the courts would then rule that particular time. I think we are dealing with a matter now, and I think it is not precedented. I don't really think we have any precedents of somebody who was maybe elected to office and then later they were found to have been impeached legally and procedurally. I think that would be a first that every one of us would want to see. But the matter that we are discussing as of now is, are you barred from running for office simply because you have been removed from office or impeached while you have appealed against that in court and the matter has not been concluded by the courts?
Right.
And you know the highest court in the land is the Supreme Court. Yeah. So the High Court could rule that he was removed procedurally. The Court of Appeal could rule the same, but the Supreme Court could rule differently.
And in his justification, the former deputy president quotes a different case, the one for the Sirisia MP, Bwana, who was actually convicted of a crime, but pending appeal has been allowed to run for office after conviction, and is actually a sitting member of parliament. Do you see the justification in the argument by the former deputy president?
The institutions dealing with the issues of Sirisia MP and the one dealing with the impeachment of Gachagua are two totally different institutions with different mandates. As things stand today, the impeached former deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, does not qualify to run for any seat as per the Constitution. Article 259 of the Constitution gives the interpretation of the Constitution in such a way that it should be purposive in nature. The purpose of impeachment is to ensure that it is effective in respect to the accusations that were leveled against him. And the law around Article 145, read together with Article 150 of the Constitution of Kenya, that impeached Gachagua, is self-executing. That the moment you are impeached, it is done. It does not even give provision, the Constitution does not give provision for redress beyond that. You know, there is separation of power. So that the legislature is the one that is given absolute responsibility of dealing with the issues of impeachment. The moment you impeached, Article 75, sub-Article 3 comes into effect immediately, that you do not qualify to hold any state office, you do not qualify to seek any elective position. And this another issue of going to court to seek redress is allowed, because Article 22 and Article 23 give that opportunity for someone to seek redress if at all they think their constitutional rights have been violated. But as far as things stand today, he does not qualify to run for any elective seat in this country or anywhere else in the world.
Right. This is definitely unprecedented. As a deputy president, that was the highest ranking person to be ever impeached in our situation here in Kenya. Do you see where the confusion is coming in, or is it clear to you on what should happen?
I think, Fred, we should be asking the right question, because sometimes we get bogged down with current affairs. I think we should be asking the question, which kind of president does Kenya want? Because this could be a bigger discussion than discussing personalities. Because I think as an economist, governance expert, I'm looking at in 2027.
You don't feel that discussing provisions of the Constitution is important on impeachment and whether a person impeached should be able to run for office?
Because you see, that will be done by courts at the right time. We had so many discussions.
As a Kenyan, do you feel
what I
someone
think
who has
is
been impeached
we must
should run for
adhere
office?
to the Constitution. And
according to you?
The Constitution of Kenya has been made opaque by the lawyers themselves so that they benefit from interpreting it. Because it should be very clear. According to CJ, impeachment is a finality, according to CJ. And it is high interpretation. So Supreme Court will interpret. Can you imagine that Supreme Court interpreted whether Ruto was elected or not? Yet the people should be deciding as the citizens. So I know how opaque it is. And like I tell Fred, every constitution, you hear this article says clearly like this, then the article says like that. Why did they put it like that? If you go to American Constitution, look at the case of Trump, when Trump was saying that he was robbed of victory. The pronouncement was very clear. There was even no court decision. They just said this is what the Constitution says. No one even went to court, and Trump took off, isn't it? Why in Kenya? It is for benefiting some people. And I don't want to go into this discussion. I know clearly that the Chapter 6 should be adhered to the letter. And the Constitution is very clear that there could be other things other than impeachment, because if it's the case, is William Ruto also fit to run? This question can be asked, isn't it? And as the People's Restorative Justice Commission, we believe that he is not fit to be president.
On what grounds?
Depends with the law.
No.
What does the law say about that?
Listen,
we are discussing a different issue about Gachagua.
So that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going.
The president has been impeached. So you cannot say that he does not qualify to run.
Allow me to state my facts, unless you know what I was supposed to say.
Go ahead, Prof.
What I'm trying to say here is that young people flocked to the streets to do demonstrations, isn't it? And they were killed. So many people were killed. They were not killed by wind. They were not killed by water. We have files. I'm speaking from the position of the People Restorative Justice Commission. I am a commissioner there. Even if you would call J.B. Muturi, who is the chair, he would tell you. We are not talking about rumors.
Commission in the Constitution.
Just wait. Just allow me. What I'm trying to say, we are going to provide evidence. We've been collecting evidence. We even have a portal where all this is coming up.
You're saying based on that then?
Based on the evidence we are collecting, the courts will decide, isn't it? And the judicial system will decide. So don't start ruling people out, because those people quick to rule out others might find themselves also being ruled out another way. So people are saying that it's given, like I hear a article saying that who is fit to beat William Ruto? What if he's not running?
Yes, Wamba.
Let us open up this and say, who is fit to be president? Instead of looking for how some people have muscle pull.
There are provisions in the Constitution.
So Fred, just wait. Let me finish. I'm saying we should even ask the question, who is fit? Because why are we concerned about people who have muscle pull? They are fatigued, mentally tired, retired, and the rest, former this, former that. So I'm saying there's a big room for 56 million Kenyans.
Should we ignore
who can present themselves?
But Professor Ogola just mentioned something about a certain commission. You know, Chapter 15 of the Constitution of Kenya talks about commissions and independent offices. The commission he has mentioned has not featured anywhere in that constitution. So I do not even understand the locus standi of the existence of that commission that is referring to. But again,
if you don't understand, doesn't mean it's not there.
Issues around Gachagua are about...
doesn't mean it's not there. There are so many things.
How does it exist?
Do you know
which law provides for it?
Do you understand rocket science? Rocket science exists whether you understand or not. Do you understand God? God exists whether you understand or not. Not understand doesn't mean it does not exist.
Gentlemen,
all those are subjective.
Gentlemen, let's allow Sabina Chege to talk about this matter. The issue of an impeached individual running for office.
Thank you, but I also just want to say I would want to know the mandate of that commission, because it's not constitutional. So I don't know why we should be talking about a commission that is not constitutional. But having said that, let me say what Senator Joe Newton said, yes, it's true that unless all the avenues of appeal have been exhausted, then as we stand regarding Gachagua, we have a chance to vie at the 2027, though we have had cases of impeachment of Waitito, who never vied, and also Sonko, who was cleared to the last minute. And so maybe what we need to do is just to encourage our friends that they need to maybe fast track or conclude this matter. As you said, we have We can have a person vying for presidency, and they may be halfway, or when the person has been elected, then the case is determined. So do
you get the feeling that we are not so sure about this provision on impeachment and who should run for office, who should not?
If someone is impeached, they cannot vie for the position. But then there is also the issue of have they exhausted the appeals? That's the question. And I think because we're in this country, what we should be asking ourselves is, does he qualify? Apart from the impeachment, does he qualify?
Have we been consistent on this issue? Because we've seen other people who have probably cases in court and after the impeachment and they were denied an opportunity to run.
You see, for someone like Waitito, I think his case had already been determined. For Sonko, that's why we saw the last minute. I think it was a month to the election, so that then he was cleared to vie for governorship of Mombasa, which was too late towards the end. We had, I think, Karungo Watangwa. There was also a case of Karungo who was cleared the last minute to vie as a senator of Kiambu. It was a very big case. But when you look at somebody like Waluke and what the law says, if it's somebody when by the time they were registering to be a candidate, if they had been sentenced for imprisonment of more than 6 months, I think at that point, why Waluke was not barred from vying is because he had not been sentenced or imprisoned by the time he was being registered as a candidate for election. And I think that's a difference that we have. So we can't just say we have seen people like Waluke being allowed to vie. By the time he registered as a person who wanted to vie for the position, the sentence had not come in. And I think that's how Waluke has also managed to survive. But the big question, I think as Kenyans we should be asking is that why do we vote for individuals to become our president? And what do we look for in a candidate or an individual to become our own president? Because unfortunately what I've seen is that we, the politicians, want to confuse our own people. And I want to start maybe from the 2017, I go to 2022, where we follow a candidate. Myself as Sabina, I know, by then in 2017 or 2012 when I vied and I was on the side of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, it was almost obvious that I'm going to be elected. But the Murang'a people, did they ask, so then if we elect Sabina as our women rep, what are the expectations? And that is why we have seen after the year 2022, unfortunately, there are many people who hanged on the court of William Samoei Ruto because by then he was the most popular candidate. And so they went and told people, you have to elect me because I'm supporting William Samoei Ruto. But immediately after they came into parliament, they abandoned him. And now they are holding on to other people's or other individuals' courts saying, you elect me because I am a supporter of so-and-so. I think at some point, and where we have reached as a country, we need to mature up as voters and start asking the hard questions. So why should I elect you as my own senator? I should not elect you as my own women rep or my own MP because you are following so-and-so as an individual. Come in, and I think we need also to start, people to be accountable. We start asking the hard questions. I have elected you as my member of parliament for this is the 3rd year. As we are looking at the performance of the national government for the last 3 years, can we start from the grassroots? Because as the voters, when we are doing the election, we have 6 candidates. So from the MCAs, what did you promise? What have you done? And don't come to tell me I've not done because of so-and-so. Because when you are voting for me, I didn't tell you because I'll work, or I'm pegging my performance with so-and-so or an individual. That is why as members of parliament, we cannot have an excuse and come and say William Ruto has failed us. We have the mandate. We can pass laws. So if you are a senator, have you done the oversight of the money that is coming to your county? Those are the hard questions that we need to start asking. Because at the end of we are so fixated and obsessed with the person who is becoming the next president. But before I tell you about my next president, can I tell you currently, I am nominated, what have I done?
All right.
Can I tell you currently, every MP, and I think it's good for people to know, there is no MP in this Republic of Kenya who has less than 200 million per year. What has this money done? I was seeing I think last night at the news when I was seeing counties like Turkana and the Northeastern where there's a threat of hunger or drought. But these counties receive billions every year. Where has this money gone into? And people start asking their governors hard questions. We have seen people coming into positions and earning a lot of money, buying properties, and there's a lot of money that is being spent. But But are we asking those hard questions? Where is this money coming from?
All right.
What has my governor done for me? Has my senator here, who is also my senator, Joe Nyoto, put into account the money so far Murang'a County has received and how that money has been used? I think those are the questions. But we have, I think it's unfortunate, and this, I am now serving my third term, but this is the only parliament and the only time that drama started immediately people were voted in. And so people have abandoned their mandate on why they were elected. And so it's about showdown. It's about, I am supporting so-and-so. It's about 2027. But before we tell Kenyans about 2027, can we be accountable for the last 3 years and also say what is our plan for the next 2 years?
Senator, I feel there are a few questions that you need to answer from the statement that she has made. And I'm looking at pages 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Gachagua 2027 candidacy sparks intrigue, reshaping battle to unseat President Ruto. Are we overly obsessed with the presidential race and who runs for president, even as you respond to some of the issues you've raised?
Thank you. And just to conclude on the matter of whether Rigathi Gachagua is eligible to run for presidency with the impeachment hanging on his neck or not, I think the best case we can refer to is the case of Wambora, who was actually impeached in his first term. It is not the Senate that lifted his impeachment. It was a court of law. And all the way, he was even able to run for a second term. So the issue of impeachment, we have a precedent in the case of Wambora. And so anybody trying to convince you that there are legal provisions that would prevent Rigathi Gachagua from running for presidency is economical with the truth, and especially the provisions of the law. And I hear lawyers talk about case law. So the case of Wambora would be a good reference point to determine this matter or to come up with a view on this particular matter. Now, yes, it's true that as we talk about the presidency, that we should also ask ourselves what we have done for our people, whether we have been able to execute our mandate and whether we have done what we were supposed to do when our people elected us. And I think that is something that is true, and the Honorable Sabina is right in that particular one. But then why everybody is fixated with the presidency is because that is where, national resources seem to revolve around. And if you listen to the people of Nyanza, for example, they will tell you, and they are saying it every day, that since they got into broad-based project this has come, project that has come, this has come. Why? Because they are in an arrangement with the president. And so it behooves upon all of us then to ask ourselves, what type of a president should we elect? What processes are there to enable every other part of this country to benefit from the national cake, whether or not they are supporting the president? And so you cannot reduce the matter of the presidential elections, the upcoming presidential elections, to what have you done, you who is talking about this particular matter. To talk about the case of a senator, for example, the senator carries out 3 functions strictly. And you have heard Honorable Sabina did not mention about inequity that the Senate operates. It is oversight, legislation, and representation. But I think it's important that we make our leader, we also educate our viewers on especially the kind of oversight of county funds. Because there has been a fallacy and, misleading statements that the senator, yes, the senator is supposed to oversight, but a senator of any county, and I challenge my sister Sabina to refute this. The senator of any county can only do secondary oversight. The senator has no power under the Constitution to prevent a particular project from happening in their county, or to approve or disapprove any particular program or use of funds in the county. That is the role of MCAs, because the MCAs in any particular county assembly will have to approve of any particular government program, county government program. The county assembly will have to approve the budget that the county government, presents to the county assembly for approval. So the senator does not play a role on that, and that has to be made very clear, because, people who like fighting senators will tell you, this amount of money was spent in this particular manner, and the senator was still there. The senator has no power to prevent it from happening, but the senator can point out that this was not done, appropriately, but he cannot prevent, because there is no consultation or expectation that the senator approves or disapproves, and I know I'm repeating that particular one. Now, you are told here by Honorable Sabina that you cannot just sit there and criticize, that you can make laws in either house, the National Assembly or the Senate, and it is true. But then, before any particular law is passed, of course, it has to go through a vote. And I can tell you, Fred, if it is something, it's a law that is not government friendly, it will not see the light of day. One, even a bill or a particular motion may not be approved by the Speaker if the Speaker is not friendly to you. And we know, especially the Speaker of the National Assembly, nobody doesn't know where he leans, which side he leans on. Number two, nobody doesn't know that the numbers in either house are controlled by William Ruto, because especially when they came together with ODM.
I gave you an opportunity to respond to that, but I don't want us to digress and talk about the issues about Gachagua and his candidature as president.
And it's a circus.
Yes, because I don't want us to get confused. I know that's a good debate you're having there, but allow us to go back to this and looking at it politically. Even the side that you speak for, Fwamba, you appear very...
For inside, I speak for the truth only.
Fine, I speak for the truth. You appear a bit uncomfortable with regarding Gachagua's candidature. Why is that? Is it because he's a formidable contender? Or why do you feel that he should not run for president?
Not really. Those ones, it's not supposed to be my opinion or my position. The law has already said that he cannot run. According to the status quo, as things stand today, he's not qualified to run as per the operational law that I stated. The Wambora case is very different from Gachagua's, because for him, he was reinstated by the court. And then again, in between, there must have been an injunction, something that Gachagua failed to get. So Gachagua did not get the injunction to keep him in office. That's one thing. Then we cannot predict the outcome of the courts, that they will allow him to continue being politically relevant or not. What I'm seeing here is a circus, actually a melodramatic script written by Cleophas Malala continuing to play. Because Gachagua knows very well that the best thing that happens to him is when he's enjoying this kind of airtime. And he has actually achieved it now that we are discussing him. All that he's doing right now is just to remain in the news, to be relevant, eventually have a few candidates running on his kiosk of a party. And I think from there, he also wants to have a say. Remember, he has kept on saying that he wants to be like Raila. So he thinks through that he can bargain, maybe in the future, negotiate around and get back to be relevant in politics by having a few members of parliament under his party so that they can influence one or two things for him. But as far as things or the situation stands today, he's only trying to push this kind of narrative to hoodwink people to start to continue considering him as a leader.
All right.
But politically, he does not qualify to run for any office.
Yes, because he initially had painted a picture that he was going to be probably the kingmaker behind the scenes. Why do you think he made the decision to vie? Is it to up his stake within the united opposition? Why do you think he chose to do that right now?
I think I can't say that he made a decision to vie, but I said he made a decision to say he's vying.
Yes.
So first of all, let me say before I go there that for the first time I agree with my sister, Sabina Chege, when he asked the question, which I told you the main question should be the overall question than going personal, and I agree with you that we have to ask the tough questions. How has the current president performed? Which kind of people around him, how are they performing? Do they have the moral compass to even say who should be president or not? And maybe Senator Newton might think that's not a discussion, but it's a very important discussion because there are so many people who are receiving a lot of funds and they're just making noise the president has failed. And the shift is shifting into pointing at one person other people are getting away with murder. Murder here means with a lot of misappropriation of funds. But going to your main topic is that what is happening is that if you look at it from political strategic point of view, I'm one of the members of the United Opposition, though you don't see me running around with them, but I am there because the People's Restorative Justice Commission is actually under United Opposition. And whether you want to say it's constitutional or not, we are doing work which people who have constitutional mandate are not doing, because history is full with books of commissioners, panels set up that are doing nothing. So we are doing what needs to be done. The only thing we are doing, we cannot use state funds to do what we need to do. We have mobilized our own funds to do what Kenyans need to do, and what matters is that the job gets done. So in United Opposition, when you see Gachagua going to the US, they were trying to look at everybody, how they're behaving. That's why you saw in this cartoon, everyone says the ground says I'm the one, ground says I'm the one. So the question is, should you run because the ground says you are running? And who is the ground? How do you measure this ground? And I think that my first point is that I think the United Opposition that I belong to have not quantified the risk of Ruto becoming again a president in 2027. And maybe that's what Gachagua must have been triggered with by saying, hey, I'm looking at my fellow players and I can't see who is fit really. And should I also just throw my hat in the ring to tell them, hey, don't think it is given? Because if I tell you I'm going to make you a king, you can go to bed and sleep, isn't it? And said, well, Gachagua is going to work for me. Like, for example, when Gachagua said I can make you a king and he has 7 million votes, and you think that he has been castrated, he cannot run, then say, by the way, let me remind you that the Constitution that actually stopped me. And Fred, if you read the Constitution faithfully, there are different what we call constitutional and legal. Constitutionally, there's nothing stopping Gachagua from running. But legal provisions might be the barriers to it. I remember, Constitution are what has been done in 2010, but legal are things trying to interpret the Constitution, and sometimes the Constitution can overrule. Let me take you the case of Sakaja in Nairobi. To run for governor, those things saying degree and the rest actually are not in the Constitution. So the legal provisions could stop him, but the Constitution doesn't stop him. Okay. So what happens is that the jurisprudence of the court that will sit might say the Constitution sits at the apex of legal provisions and therefore he can run, because there's something in the Constitution which is there. Until you exhaust all your legal mechanisms, and I've actually read it again, it's not a finality. Impeachment is it's not like a death, because he still have rights. So he still has a right of life, he can still exercise this one the way he wants. But for me, the most painful thing is that if we can quantify this problem, because I've heard people just saying, like I hear, for example, if I quote one of the leaders of the United Opposition, Kalonzo Musyoka, he has been making a certain statement very consistently, that one term, isn't it? He says one term is an eventuality. One term will happen, isn't it? No, it won't happen. It must be made to happen. Okay. And they are shouting and saying, Gen Zs can't vote for this guy. No, you can't leave it to Gen Zs. But you have to front yourself and say, bring your policies, come forward and demonstrate your electability. That's why Gachagua in Githurai said, I am fit to run, so that those people don't go to bed saying, you'll make me president. All right, because this is one of the things that could be derailing some people by thinking, he can't run, so I'll just gain from Mount Kenya vote because Gachagua can't run. Yes, he can run. All right. Just before I give you an opportunity for your final comments, allow me to just go through some of the views on this matter from our viewers. Maina Wamodhoni says Gachagua has it all to become the 6th president of Kenya. He's ready to restore the dignity of this country. Honorable Willie Mutunga, but this is not the former CJ, is called Atsa Willie on X. I would vote for him just to remove the situation we are in currently, but not sure whether it will change anything, but at least there will be change of power. Kimosop Korir says, is he even fast fit to run for political seat, he asks, unless we use a different constitution, but still, he won't be a choice. Mukua Freddy says, king of shareholding, it's like jumping from frying pan to hot fire. Sharon Kananu, it's not possible. I thought the so-called United Opposition has a plan. It's all about self-interest, not about the people. Kalen Nyakio, if Gachagua was in government, hizi kelele zote hazingekuwa.
And finally, Eugene Fuller says, no, I wouldn't vote for Rigathi Gachagua in 2027 because of his leadership style, controversies, and limited national appeal. Raises doubts about his ability to unite and transform Kenya effectively. These are just some of your comments. We have a poll on X, and we're asking Rigathi Gachagua as a presidency in 2027, would you vote for him? 54% say yes, 29% say no. Those are the final results from that poll. And I think one more. Bamku Bashir says, true, Sabina, I think is on one of the responses you gave. Someone is in agreement. David Susa, let them answer that question. Is Gachagua qualified or not? Na mwingine anauliza wapiga kura waache kuchagua watu juu ya mtu fulani. All right. Thank you so much for your comments, and continue. The conversation definitely continues online, even beyond this show. I want to give you each about a minute or so for your final comments. Let's start with you, Fwamba.
Just before I get to that, I saw Prof mentioning about 7 million votes. I believe that was hypothetical because as far as I'm concerned, the elections have not been held yet, and it's not determinable on who is going to get what votes or who has what kind of following. I do not think if, like Honorable Sabina Chege is part of the 7 million supposed votes of the so-called Gachagua's candidature.
Okay.
And I insist that based on the constitutional provisions, Gachagua does not qualify to run for an elective seat. Whatever is being mentioned here politically is to just make him relevant for certain political benefits. And those ones who are fighting President Ruto in particular, for me, I believe are people who are uncomfortable with the kind of changes that he has created. There are people with this kind of shareholding mentality that wanted to continue having the country having that kind of skewed development. And they are unhappy right now that the government is implementing projects all over the country, whether in Mount Kenya, whether in Western, whether in Northeastern or Nyanza. It is now a whole country kind of interest that the president is pushing. And I think that's applaudable.
Thank you so much. Fwamba, Sabina Chege, you go next.
Thank you very much. As I conclude, I want to tell Senator John Yoto that he has a role of oversight, though not direct. Senators are supposed to complement what the MCAs are doing. They have a role to scrutinize the way the money that is dispersed to the counties, how the money is being used. They can summon governors, and I think I saw, was it Senator Omtata? He had done a very good job. He had looked at how his county has used the money. He had done an analysis, and he had also petitioned his governor. So you don't have to wait for the MCAs to impeach the governor. The senators have a role that they can also raise questions on how the money or the oversight of the finances at the county. But having said that, let me say that one day in politics is a very long day. And I want to tell the so-called united opposition, do not underestimate the power of William Samoei Ruto. I think William Ruto won when he was fighting or he was competing with the state. And so it is not obvious. I've had my friend here say that the risk of Ruto becoming. I think he needs to wake up to the reality that actually Ruto might become, and there's a possibility, and especially when you have an opposition, that they are all fighting for a specific position, and they have no agenda for Kenyans. So the first thing is that they need to have an agenda, and they also must settle down and agree, because I might say I'm suitable, the other one says I'm suitable, so they can subdivide all those votes that they are counting that they have. And number three, also don't assume, when you talk about 7 million voters in Central Kenya, do not assume that everybody in Central Kenya is backing one individual. And we have 2 years to go. So I would say let the best man win. Let's put all our best foot forward. But most importantly for us who have a position now, let's not promise our people what we'll do in 2027. Let us do it now.
All right. Senator, go next.
Thank you. Maybe because Sabina has said that I have a role. I have not said that I do not have a role. I only said there is primary and secondary oversight. I think she did not get that. And so I was not escaping from my role of oversight. I was just saying there are things that people have been misled to be done by the senator, and there are things that the senator does. So the thing is the difference between between primary and secondary. Well, I think I would want to tell my brother Fwamba. You know, every time Gachagua is mentioned, he's laughing sarcastically. I want to tell him that he should have some respect for people. and not be dismissive and contemptuous of people. Probably this is the first time people have heard about him. Gachagua is talked about every day. You cannot dismiss him by such a sarcastic laughter. He said that Gachagua is just trying to get a few seats. Does he understand what a few means? Gachagua is not going to get a few seats. He is going to get very many seats. And so it's important that people respect others. I heard him say that Ruto has brought change. Yes, he has brought change. Reduced capitation from 22,000 to 16,000 and now 15,000. That for Fwaba and the particular side he supports is a very big change. That we are having billions being stolen from SHA. That's a very big thing that is being done. That we have had young people being, arrested and killed for Fwaba. That is big things. And the one very annoying thing is to say that Fwaba, you need to learn good. You need to learn good manners.
Just allow him to make his
Fwaba,
Senator.
You need to learn good debate manners.
Our time is.
Then one thing that he said that is very, very sad and must not go unchallenged is to say that there are some people who have some shareholding mentality. Okay. Nobody has prevented President Ruto from carrying out a project anywhere.
Okay.
And when people point out at bad things that President Ruto is doing, somebody cannot say that those people have a shareholding mentality.
Thank you, Senator.
So let's debate issues when we come here. Okay. And it's important, Fred, and you know that when you invite people here, tell them that they are supposed to wait for the others to finish their submissions before they interject.
Thank you, sir.
We have to have good debate manners.
Thank you. We only have about 60 seconds for your comments. Only 60 seconds, Prof.
Yeah, thank you very much, Fred. Mine is simply to say that it's time for generational change. And I want to address the Kenyans by saying that over 2 years ago, Kenyans flocked in the streets actually on 25th of June, led by the Gen Zs, and they were demanding accountability, they demanded good governance, they demanded economic liberation. Of course, they were met with state-sponsored violence, police brutality. So what was supposed to turn out to a bullet revolution was not done, and now I'm urging Kenyans, let's move to ballot revolution. Okay. So on 28th of September this month, we have a date with destiny. And I want to urge Kenyans from all walks of life, flock into IBC registration centers, register and participate in this revolution you wanted by first of all getting the most precious item for your sovereignty, which is the ballot, so that you can use this very instrument to vote out this grossly corrupt and grossly incompetent government and change the destiny of your nation and use the standards which have been mentioned on this show. Thank you.
Professor Fred Ogola, Commissioner, People's Restorative Justice Commission, Asante Sana, former NC Fwamba political analyst, MP Sabina Chege, and Senator Muranga Joe Nyoto. Thank you for your time at TV47. Also to thank our viewers who are watching us on YouTube, TV47 Kenya, on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. On X, our handle is at TV47 Digital. A look at the dailies this morning. The big one on the Daily Nation, free school funds dropped to 7-year low. That's a Daily Nation. The Standard, unmasked RJ Putkis, a different case of rape and murder. Unfortunate, but now an international arrest warrant is out for the culprit. How US rate cut will ease Kenya's SGR loan burden. That's a Business Daily. Watchest, Ruto, Raila parties get 1.2 billion shillings windfall. Why Gachagua can't run for presidency, a big discussion. That's a People Daily. Taifa Leo asema wabunge wapigania posho kotini, maswala ya CDF. Those are the headlines this morning. Let's hope for better headlines tomorrow. My name is Fred Ndimuli. Good morning.